They won't respect you until you respect yourself. They won't value you until you value your time, your energy, your silence. You teach people how to treat you, not with your words, but with your boundaries, with what you tolerate, with what you allow to slip through the cracks without confrontation. And the truth is, every moment you let disrespect pass, every time you shrink your worth to make someone else feel tall, you are setting a lesson, one they'll remember far more clearly than any speech you'll ever give. Life is not about demanding respect. It's about commanding it. And the command starts from within. It begins the first time you say, I am no longer available for people who only show up when it's convenient. It begins when you stop chasing people who never looked back. It begins when you close the door, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. The Stoics didn't waste time asking, why don't they treat me better? They asked, why did I stay where my value was invisible? Seneca once said, no man is despised by another unless he first despises himself. So look closer. Every delayed boundary, every tolerated insult, every ignored betrayal was not just someone else failing you. It was you teaching them that it was okay to. That's not self-blame. That's power. Because if you taught them once, you can unteach them now. You can show the world a new standard, not with anger, but with certainty. Because the moment you raise your standard, the world recalibrates. You think that person keeps interrupting you by accident? No, you train them that your voice could be walked over. You think they keep taking your time for granted? No, you taught them that your yes came cheap. Every unspoken no becomes a whispered yes to disrespect. So start showing up for yourself like someone who matters. Set the tone. Set the pace. Set the boundary. Because boundaries aren't walls, they're mirrors. They don't keep others out. They show them how to walk in. They say, this is the level. Meet it or miss it. Not out of pride, but out of peace. And here's what most never realize. People are not confused. They are observant. They're watching your energy. They're watching how you let others treat you. They're watching how you treat yourself. They're taking notes. Do you keep apologizing for existing? Do you stay silent when you should speak? Do you laugh off disrespect and call it not worth it? They're learning. Learning how loud they can be in your presence. Learning how far they can push before you leave. And most never leave. They just endure. And in endurance without standards, there is no virtue. Only decay. You don't have to be cruel. You have to be clear. Because clarity is the foundation of all respect. People cannot honor what you have never defined. So define it. Define what is okay and what is no longer acceptable. Define your time as sacred. Define your presence as earned. Not out of ego, but out of reverence. Reverence for your growth. Reverence for your energy. Reverence for your own damn life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Apply this. You can't change how others behave, but you can change the access they have to you. You can change your response. You can change your pattern of forgiveness without change. You can stop handing out discounts on your soul. Because when you stop arguing for your limitations, you start living in your power. Most people are stuck in cycles of disrespect because they believe it's normal. Because they were raised in noise. Taught that peace was passive. Taught that strength was silence. But true strength is knowing when to walk away. When to say, I'm done explaining to people who are committed to misunderstanding me. When to say, I refuse to be the lesson someone learns through hurting me. That is power. Not aggression. Not revenge. But stillness. Unshakable self-regard. You see, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. What you accept. What you project. So project depth. Project integrity. Project a standard so firm that even the boldest chaos learns to step softly around it. Because when you walk into the room with self-respect in your spine, the world takes a step back. Not because you're loud, but because you are clear. You don't need to prove your worth. You need to embody it. Because the world mirrors your posture. If you walk like you're replaceable, people will replace you. If you speak like you're unsure, people will doubt you. But if you carry yourself like a mission, not a maybe, they'll treat you like a movement, not a moment. There is a quiet force in a person who knows they don't beg, who doesn't chase applause, who walks away from noise, not because they're angry, but because they've outgrown it. Let them misunderstand you. Let them whisper. Let them call your clarity cold. Let them call your standards too much. That's fine. Because people comfortable with your silence were never feeding your soul anyway. And here's what you must understand. People will test you. Not because they're evil, but because they're wired to. They want to see what you'll accept. How far you'll bend before you break. And every time you bend, they take notes. Until one day, they don't even ask. They just take. You want to know how to stop that cycle? Start honoring the voice inside you that says, I'm tired of giving people the best parts of me in exchange for the bare minimum. That voice? That's not resentment. That's your clarity waking up. See, the Stoics didn't cry over lost friendships. They didn't wallow in betrayal. They observed it, learned from it, adapted. Epictetus said it best. When someone irritates you, it is your own response that is irritating you. That doesn't mean ignore it. It means take the lesson. Don't drink the poison. Because energy flows where standards grow. Want better treatment? Set better standards. Not louder, not meaner, just firmer. Because life will keep handing you versions of the same lesson. Until you stop saying, maybe they'll change, and start saying, I've changed. Changed into someone who sees themselves, respects themselves, protects themselves. There is no medal for martyrdom. No trophy for tolerating mistreatment in silence. What there is this peace. Not the peace you perform. Not the smile that hides exhaustion. But the real peace, the one that comes when your soul no longer has to beg for dignity. And dignity, my friend, begins where tolerance ends. When you start keeping your word to yourself. When you stop negotiating with your own truth. When your time, your energy, your silence becomes sacred again. You don't owe anyone access to your light just because they remember you when they're in the dark. You don't owe explanations for your growth. You don't need to announce your evolution. Live it. Because the most powerful transformations are silent. No warning. No broadcast. Just new energy. And the world feels it even when they don't understand it. It's in your posture. It's in your eyes. It's in the calm way you say no. It's in the doors you no longer knock on. It's in the conversations you stop explaining yourself in. It's in the way you now walk past what used to break you. Because now you understand something most never will. You are not hard to love. You were just standing too long in rooms that had no mirrors. Rooms that only saw what they could use, not what they could honor. Rooms that taught you to shrink to fit. Rooms that said, be small so we feel big. But you're done with that now. You are the room. You are the standard. You are the boundary. You are the mirror. And from now on, you don't wait for others to rise to your level. You simply live there and let them decide if they can breathe at that altitude. No more lowering the bar. No more self-sacrifice disguised as love. No more calling chaos complicated and pretending it's deep. It's not. It's just loud. Real depth? It's quiet. It's consistent. It doesn't need to shout because it has nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove. Because when you know who you are, you don't chase. You attract. You don't explain. You demonstrate. You don't tolerate. You transcend. And it's not arrogance. It's awareness. Let them call it what they want. Call it too much. Call it cold. Call it selfish. Because the ones who were only comfortable with your suffering will always be offended by your self-respect. But that's not your burden. Your burden was pretending you were fine with less. Now, your gift is living as if you're finally enough. Because you always were. You teach people how to treat you. Not just with the lines you draw, but with the way you show up when no one's watching. Because self-respect is built in the dark. It's not the grand declarations. It's the tiny choices. waking up on time, keeping your promises to yourself, walking away when your gut whispers, "This is not for you," not out of drama but out of devotion. Devotion to your peace, to your purpose, to your standard. And let me be clear, this world doesn't hand out rewards for people who wait to be chosen. It rewards those who choose themselves, those who say, "I will not wait to be picked. I will walk my path, even if I walk it alone." Because solitude with dignity beats company with compromise. You were not born to be tolerated. You were born to be respected, to be felt, to be known by your energy before you say a single word. But the only way that happens is when you stop watering the gardens of people who were never going to plant anything back. Understand this. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Access is earned, not with flattery, but with consistency, with presence, with honor. And the more you grow, the smaller your circle will get, not because you're bitter, but because clarity is a filter. You start to see who's really for you. You start to feel the shift in the air when someone's love comes with conditions. You stop pretending that crumbs are a feast. Just because you were starving for connection, you are not starving anymore. You are full, full of truth, full of strength, full of boundaries born in fire. And now, you burn brighter, not to hurt but to illuminate. And some will walk away from your flame. Let them. Because the ones who only loved you when you were dim were never strong enough to stand in your light. See, you are not responsible for other people's comfort zones. You're responsible for your soul. And your soul did not come here to be edited, to be silenced, to be bent into shapes for the convenience of others. Your soul came here to rise. So rise. Rise in how you speak. Rise in how you rest. Rise in how you let go of people who don't clap when you win. Because not everyone who's close to you is aligned with you. And that's okay. Some people are lessons. Some people are mirrors. Some people are warnings. But all of them are teachers. And your job is not to fix them. Your job is to learn, then move. You don't need to scream your worth. Live it. Let your calm be the loudest voice in the room. Let your peace offend the chaos. Let your standards disrupt the patterns. Because when you raise the bar, the world has two choices: elevate or exit. And you're too focused to beg, too clear to explain, too grounded to entertain what once drained you. Remember, you teach people how to treat you, so teach them through your glow-up, through your distance, through your silence, through your strength that says, "I will not fold to be liked. I will not bend to be seen. I will not break to be loved." Because love that asks you to break is not love. It's control in disguise. And you are done being controlled by anything that dims your fire. You are not here to survive. You are here to become. Become the version of you that walks into rooms and shifts the frequency. That speaks truth even when their voice shakes. That refuses to abandon themselves just to belong. Because the cost of abandoning yourself is far greater than the cost of walking away. Walk away from patterns that disrespect your time, from people who treat your vulnerability as weakness, from the places where your growth makes others uncomfortable. Walk away with your head high, because you are not losing them. You are finding you, and when you find you, the real you, the one underneath the people-pleasing, the fear, the false peace, you don't beg anymore. You don't shrink. You don't ask for permission. You simply become. That, my friend, is the loudest boundary of all. Because the most powerful thing you'll ever do in this life is stand rooted in the truth of who you are. Without apology, without dilution, without asking for permission from people who were never qualified to grant it. You teach people how to treat you. Every time you show them what is non-negotiable. Not with anger, not with threats, but with calm, unwavering certainty. This is who I am. This is what I allow. This is how I walk away from anything less. It's not about ego. It's about identity. You've spent too long wearing masks, crafted from survival, sculpted by fear, approved by people who didn't have to carry your silence. And now you're done. Done hiding. Done explaining. Done dimming your radiance to soothe someone else's insecurity. You are not arrogant for standing tall. You are not rude for being unavailable to disrespect. You are not mean for demanding what you give. Because high standards are not walls. They are gates. And your peace is the city they protect. Let that sink in. The boundaries you set today become the peace you feel tomorrow. So set them like your life depends on it. Because it does. Because the life of your soul, the health of your heart, the strength of your purpose, cannot survive in soil poisoned by people who don't value your roots. And don't be fooled. It's not always the loud ones who cause the deepest damage. It's often the quiet betrayal, the almosts, the lukewarm energy, the slow erosion of your worth, by those who never say it directly, but show it day by day in how little they show up. Let them go. Let the ones who love with conditions return to their comfort zones. You're not a project. You're not a placeholder. You're not someone's emotional crutch. You are the storm. You are the sunrise after the chaos. You are the lesson they weren't ready to learn. Because when you stop tolerating mistreatment, you start teaching others how to meet you in truth. The universe responds to clarity. It doesn't move on noise. It doesn't move on hope without action. It doesn't move on desperation. It moves when you move. When you finally say, I'd rather be alone in alignment than surrounded in confusion. I'd rather walk alone with peace than be held by hands that hurt me. You become magnetic, not because you're chasing, but because you're standing still in your power. And power is quiet. It doesn't beg. It doesn't bargain. It doesn't repeat itself. Speaks once, and lets your behavior do the rest. So behave like you're the standard. Wake up like your time matters. Speak like your words build empires. Listen like your mind is your temple. Walk like your future depends on every step, because it does. And when people see you walking in that kind of alignment, they learn quickly, you are not here to be handled. You are here to be honored. And those who can't will fall away, not because you pushed them, but because your energy expelled them. Because healed people repel harm. Clarity repels chaos. Purpose repels parasites. And when your life becomes an environment of truth, only those aligned with truth can survive in your presence. That's the gift. That's the reward for every moment you said, no more. No more explaining. No more negotiating. No more betraying myself just to keep the peace. Because the peace you were keeping wasn't peace. It was suppression. And suppression has a cost. It robs you of joy, of sleep, of radiance, of fire. But not anymore. Because now, you've remembered who you are. You've returned to the truth. You've looked in the mirror and finally said, I will never again teach someone that my love can be earned by their neglect. I will never again teach someone that my silence means consent. I will never again teach someone that I'm available for pain disguised as passion. You teach people how to treat you, and starting now, you're teaching them something new. That you are a force. That you are a standard. That you are not waiting to be chosen. Because you already chose you. You chose you not in arrogance, but in alignment. Not because you hate others, but because you finally love yourself deeply enough to stop handing out pieces of your soul to people who never valued the gift. And this is what they don't tell you. The moment you truly choose yourself, you will lose people. You will lose the ones who only stayed because your boundaries were broken. The ones who relied on your silence to keep their power. The ones who were never drawn to your truth. Only your availability. Let them go. Because you're not here to be consumed. You're here to build. Build a life that reflects your values. A voice that carries weight. A presence that demands integrity without a word. The Stoics believed that character was fate. That what you tolerate becomes who you are. So every time you say, I won't tolerate being treated like I don't matter, you are not being dramatic. You're designing your destiny. You are choosing character. You are choosing fate. You are choosing a higher path. The one where peace is non-negotiable, where growth is sacred, where love starts from within and flows outward only to those who can hold it with reverence. And here's the truth you've always known. Deep down, under the noise, people don't just respect confidence. They respect congruence. When your words match your actions. When your tone matches your energy. When your silence says more than your speeches ever could. So speak less. Mean more. Let your yes be absolute. Let your no be a closed door without explanation, without guilt. Because every time you say no to disrespect, you say yes to yourself. You say yes to the version of you that doesn't need to fix people. You say yes to the peace that comes from not chasing. You say yes to the boundaries that guard your becoming. You become unshakable. Not because the world got softer, but because you got clearer. Clarity is your sword. Discipline is your armor. Self-respect is your kingdom. And no one rules your kingdom unless you let them in. So be selective. Be intentional. Be unapologetically honest about what you're no longer entertaining. You're not entertaining people who ghost and come back like nothing happened. You're not entertaining jobs that pay you just enough to forget your dreams. You're not entertaining conversations that drain your light. You're not entertaining love that feels like a war zone. You are not a playground for people's projections. You are a temple, and temples have thresholds. Temples have silence. Temples have sacred fire, and only the worthy may approach. So let your life become a temple again. Cleanse it, clear it, guard it, not with bitterness but with reverence. And when people ask, "What happened to you?" you don't owe them a long story. You don't owe them a wound-by-wound report. You don't owe them anything. You simply smile and say, "I stopped negotiating my worth." And that answer will echo, because most people are still in the habit of shrinking, still stuck in cycles of pleasing, still addicted to being liked more than being free. But you've chosen differently. You've chosen the high road, not the easy road. You've chosen solitude over noise, standards over survival, truth over comfort. And now you live like it. You walk like it. You love like it. You lead like it. Because once you realize you've been the permission slip all along, everything changes. No more waiting for someone to show you your value. No more auditioning for rooms you were born to command. No more making excuses for people who make you question your sanity. From this point on, your silence will speak volumes. Your presence will filter the room. Your absence will teach them what your presence was worth. Because when you teach people how to treat you, not with lectures but with how you live, you don't have to say much. Your life becomes the lesson, and the right ones will learn. The wrong ones will leave. And you will finally breathe in a life that honors who you've always been. This breath, this life you've reclaimed, it isn't just survival. It's sacred. Because once you learn to live without betraying yourself, every second becomes a revolution. Every silence becomes a sermon. Every step becomes a statement. I remember who I am now. And you'll notice it in small ways. The way you no longer flinch at someone pulling away. The way your phone stops lighting up with chaos. The way you sleep deeper, speak slower, love sharper. Because you're no longer looking outward for validation. You've returned to your own center. And from that center, the world begins to orbit differently. The people who once confused you now feel distant. Not because they changed, but because you finally saw through the fog of your own hope. Hope is beautiful, but hope without clarity is captivity. The Stoics never placed their hope in people. They placed it in principles. They knew character over charm, action over promises, reality over projection. You've lived long enough in a state of emotional credit, lending your energy in hopes someone might repay it with love. But now you deal in cash only. No more emotional loans. No more IOUs. If they can't meet you where you are, you don't meet them halfway. You don't meet them at all. This isn't cruelty. This is self-preservation at its highest form. Because the cost of entertaining low standards is the erosion of your purpose. And purpose is everything. Without it, you drift. With it, you build. You build routines that feed your soul. You build connections that reflect your values. You build mornings that feel like momentum and nights that feel like peace. And suddenly, you're no longer available for nonsense. You don't even get angry because the situations that used to trigger you can't even find you anymore. You've outgrown them, like a snake shedding its skin, like a phoenix leaving the ashes, like a warrior laying down the sword not because the battle is over, but because you've already won by walking away. And now, you walk differently, not rushed, not reactive, but with rhythm, with certainty. You become the one they can't manipulate anymore, the one they can't guilt into staying, the one they can't bait with breadcrumbs. You become the mystery, the one who's clear, grounded, unavailable for drama. And in that mystery, there is magnetism, because people sense it, even if they can't name it. They feel the weight of your no. They feel the finality in your silence. They feel the boundary that doesn't bend. You've gone from being the one who was always there to being the one who is only present where there is respect. And suddenly the game changes. They either meet you with consistency, or they don't meet you at all. They either rise or disappear. They either honor your peace or become a memory. You no longer chase. You no longer explain. You no longer beg people to see your light, while dimming it to avoid making them uncomfortable. You are the sun now, and the sun does not apologize for how it burns. It simply rises, every day, with quiet power, with unwavering certainty, with clarity that says, I exist, and that is enough. That's you now, existing without permission, living without apology, loving without losing yourself. And when people ask what changed, you don't need a long answer. You simply say, I stopped showing people how to misuse me. I stopped teaching them that silence meant consent. I stopped allowing their chaos to become my rhythm. And in that sentence is your liberation. Because once you've reclaimed your worth, you become untouchable, not because you're better than anyone, but because you're no longer for everyone. You are for the ones who match your depth, who speak your frequency, who feel like clarity, not confusion, like nourishment, not need, like peace, not performance. And until they arrive, you walk alone, but never lonely, because when you walk in truth, you are always in good company. Good company is not found in noise. It's found in alignment. It's found in people who see you without needing to fix you. People who hear your boundaries and say, thank you, instead of taking offense. People who bring calm, not confusion. Presence, not pressure. And until those people show up, you'll stay anchored in your own self-respect. Because your peace is no longer a product of who enters your life. It's a product of what you no longer allow. And what you no longer allow becomes your new standard. You teach people how to treat you, not once, not with a single moment of clarity, but with the discipline to uphold your truth. Every day, discipline, the silent force that holds the line. When your old patterns beg for comfort, when your loneliness calls out for the familiar, when the past knocks with promises it never kept. Discipline is the quiet guardian at your gate. It says, we've seen this before. It says, we've healed too much to go back. It says, not again. The Stoics spoke of this, that freedom does not come from doing whatever you want, but from doing what is right, even when it costs you comfort. And make no mistake, it will cost you. Growth always does. You will lose people. You will lose invitations. You will lose identities you wore like armor for years. But in their place, you will gain a clarity that cannot be bought. You will gain mornings that feel like freedom. You will gain relationships that do not drain you. You will gain a self that no longer needs approval to breathe. That's the trade. And it's worth everything. Because what's the alternative? Another year of shrinking? Another cycle of being almost loved? Another apology for your truth? No, not anymore. You were not born to be a background character in your own life. You were not born to dim your shine for someone else's comfort. You were not born to explain your boundaries like they need permission to exist. You were born to lead yourself, to walk like your presence is a gift, to speak like your words have gravity, to choose yourself so consistently that others learn how to treat you just by watching how you treat you. Because it's not just about what you let in. It's about what you reinforce. You don't just block disrespect. You stop rewarding inconsistency. You stop entertaining maybe. You stop laughing off red flags. Just because you're tired of starting over. You start over anyway, because starting over with you is better than staying lost with them. And here's the truth. You don't need closure from people who never gave you clarity. You don't need apologies from people who knew exactly what they were doing. You don't need validation from people who only liked you when you were easy to control. You only need this, a decision, a standard, a life lived like your soul matters, because it does. And every moment you choose yourself, you raise the vibration of your entire life. You start attracting peace instead of pain. You start drawing in people who see your strength and don't feel the need to compete with it. You start living in a way that whispers, "This is what love looks like when it starts from within." And people feel it. They feel the difference when you show up. Not from desperation, but from alignment. Not trying to be chosen, but because you've already chosen your path. And whoever aligns joins. And whoever doesn't fades. No bitterness. No drama. Just boundaries. Because you no longer walk into rooms hoping to be liked. You walk in knowing you belong. You belong anywhere you bring truth. You belong anywhere you bring value. You belong anywhere you bring love. Real love, not the kind that requires self-abandonment to be kept. And when that becomes your normal, everything changes. You eat differently. You speak differently. You rest differently. You decide differently. Because now your decisions are made from self-worth, not from fear, not from guilt, not from scarcity. And when fear no longer drives you, nothing can manipulate you. You teach people how to treat you by showing them that you will not betray yourself to keep them. And in doing so, you finally show yourself what real respect looks like. Because once you've shown yourself respect, once you've looked in the mirror and said, "I will never again be the architect of my own erosion," you step into a new realm. A realm where self-abandonment is no longer the price of love. Where your silence is no longer mistaken for weakness, but understood as wisdom. Where your boundaries are no longer explanations, but expectations. Because true power is not about control. It's about sovereignty. The quiet, steady ownership of your time, your energy, your being. It's about the ability to walk away, not to punish, but to preserve. Preserve your peace. Preserve your truth. Preserve the space where your soul breathes free. And the world may not clap for that. It may not cheer for your discipline. It may not applaud when you choose integrity over approval. But the world will adjust. It will recalibrate around the energy you hold. It will either meet you there or drift. And either outcome is peace. Because you're not here for noise. You're here for meaning. You're not here for attention. You're here for depth. That's why this season of your life feels different. You don't crave what you used to. You're not pulled by the same distractions. You're not impressed by the same performances. You've seen behind the curtain. You've felt what it's like to lose yourself trying to be enough for people who never looked beyond their own reflection. And now you don't bend for love. Love bends for you or it moves on. Because your self-worth is not on the clearance rack anymore. It's not on trial. It's not waiting for confirmation. It is a fact. And facts don't need defending. They just are. So when someone questions your boundaries, you don't flinch. You don't argue. You don't explain. You simply live them. Because your boundary is not a line drawn in sand. It is etched in your spine. It's the way you pause before saying yes. It's the way you leave when respect fades. It's the way you remain calm when others try to provoke. You've built that. Through fire. Through loss. through nights of silence when your soul screamed for something more. And now you are something more. You are not the old version who begged. You are not the old version who chased. You are not the old version who mistook potential for partnership. You are the one who walks, not away from others but toward you. You are the one who says, I will no longer participate in relationships that require me to abandon myself. I will no longer accept emotional scraps when I offer a feast. I will no longer confuse being needed with being valued. Because there's a difference. You are not here to be needed. You are here to be known, seen, respected. And if they can't offer that, let them go. Let them find someone else to drain. Let them find someone else to fix. You are not a project. You are not a rescue mission. You are not here to prove that your love can save people committed to sinking. You are here to rise, to embody the kind of love that doesn't hurt, to build the kind of peace that doesn't ask you to bleed. And yes, it may be quiet for a while. You may walk alone. You may doubt yourself. But doubt is the final test before transformation. Because right behind doubt is identity. Right behind solitude is sovereignty. Right behind the silence is the sound of your real life beginning. You teach people how to treat you by refusing to betray the lessons life carved into your bones. By remembering that every no you say out loud is a yes to yourself. By carrying yourself like you've already seen what happens when you ignore your intuition, and you refuse to go back there again. You don't need applause. You don't need agreement. You don't need understanding. You just need your own permission to stand tall, to walk true, to be enough without the performance. You are enough. You've always been. And from this point forward, you live like it. And once you begin to live like you're enough, the whole world starts to respond differently. Not because it changed, but because your energy did. Because now your soul speaks before your mouth does. People can feel when someone finally believes in themselves. They can feel the shift when your worth is no longer negotiable. They can feel the difference between a person who's trying to impress and a person who is done performing. You are done performing. No more shrinking to fit into boxes you've outgrown. No more twisting your truth to keep the peace. No more sacrificing your soul for surface-level approval. Because now you know, every time you abandon yourself to stay connected, you pay a price too high. The erosion of your truth, the betrayal of your calling, the silencing of your fire. And that fire? It was never meant to be tamed. It was meant to burn through lies, to warm those who walk in truth, to light the way for others still stumbling in the dark. So stop dimming your light for people wearing sunglasses. You're not too much. They're too small. And that's not judgment. It's clarity. You've simply outgrown what once held you. And growth isn't graceful. It's messy. It's lonely. It's a death of the familiar. But on the other side, freedom. Freedom from codependence. Freedom from guilt-driven decisions. Freedom from the addiction to being liked. Because let's be real, being liked is cheap. Costs you nothing to be liked. But to be respected, to be remembered, to be honored, that costs everything. It costs you your need for comfort. It costs you your willingness to play small. It costs you the version of you who stayed silent just to survive. But what you gain in return is a life that tastes like peace, like power, like purpose. You don't wake up dreading your own reflection. You don't walk into rooms wondering if you belong. You know you belong, because anywhere you bring your truth, you bring value. And if they don't see it, that's not rejection. That's redirection. Let them go. Wish them well. And walk your path. Because your path is holy now. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. Forged in fire. Carved through loss. Aligned with the soul you used to silence. You're not going back to who you were. That person was necessary, but not permanent. That person got you here, but they can't take you forward. Because forward requires strength. Forward requires discipline. Forward requires the boldness to say, if it costs my peace, if it costs my purpose, if it costs my power, I can't afford it. Not anymore, because now you live by a higher code. A code that says, love without losing yourself. Speak without shrinking. Give without guilt. Walk away without burning down your soul to keep the bridge warm. And above all, stand. Even when you're tired. Even when you're alone. Even when the world doesn't understand the language of your boundaries. You speak it anyway, because you're not speaking for them. You're speaking for you. To remind yourself day by day, I am no longer teaching people that it's okay to treat me like I don't matter. This is your truth now. Lived, not just spoken. Felt, not just explained. Protected, not just performed. And if the world wants to know who you are now, you won't need to tell them. They'll feel it. In your silence. In your stride. In the weight of your absence where you used to overextend. In the peace that follows you into every room. Not because it was given, but because it was earned. You are the storm. You are the standard. You are the story that begins where self-abandonment ends. And this is only the beginning. The beginning isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It comes in the stillness. When you finally say to yourself, I am done pretending that being tolerated is the same as being treasured. Because the world taught you to be quiet. To make yourself small so others could feel big. To be agreeable. To be liked. To be good. But now you don't want to be liked. You want to be real. You want to be whole. You want to be free. And freedom doesn't come from acceptance. It comes from alignment. The moment you stop breaking yourself to fit in, you begin to belong not to them, but to yourself. You begin to walk differently. Your no gets quicker. Your yes gets heavier. You no longer say yes just to keep the peace. Because now you understand. False peace is just quiet chaos. You start saying yes to things that feed your fire, your vision, your future. And you stop entertaining energy that feels like erosion. You stop making space for people who mistake your kindness for weakness. You stop handing out access to those who treat your time like it's disposable. Because you've tasted something more powerful than approval. You've tasted clarity. And clarity ruins everything that isn't real. That fake love? You see it now. That performative friendship? You feel it now. That one-sided relationship? You name it now. You've learned that it's better to disappoint others than to keep disappointing yourself. That's growth. Not everyone will understand it. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. They'll say you've got an ego now. No, what you've got is standards. And standards don't scream. They don't explain. They don't beg. They exist. And they filter. They filter out what no longer fits. They protect what you've spent years building. They hold the line when your old self tries to reopen the door. You don't let the old self drive anymore. The one who overgave to be chosen. The one who tolerated to feel wanted. The one who said, it's okay when it was anything but. That self was necessary. That self got you here. But this version of you? The one who no longer trades truth for company? The one who chooses solitude over noise? Presence over performance? This version is sacred. And sacred things don't beg to be understood. They don't beg to be held. They simply are. Unapologetically, unshakably, undeniably themselves. That's what Stoicism was always about. Not coldness. Not emotional distance. But discipline of the soul. Knowing that your peace is your responsibility. Knowing that what others say is a reflection of them, not you. Knowing that your job is not to change others, but to master yourself. And mastery, that comes from the fire. From the moments you didn't walk away but should have. From the relationships you stayed in long past their expiration. From the pain of seeing your own reflection in the hands of those who dropped you. But now you've picked up the pieces. And you're not putting them back the way they were. You're rebuilding with intention. You're rewriting the rules. From now on, love must be clear. Time must be respected. Energy must be mutual. Presence must be real. And anything less? You release it. Not with anger, but with love. Because when you love yourself fully, you no longer grip what doesn't hold you back. You let go with grace. You walk away with peace. You stand firm in the knowing. I teach people how to treat me, and from this point forward, I am teaching them something different. You're teaching them something different now. Not through revenge, not through loud exits, but through quiet, powerful presence. Through the way you show up for yourself, not just when it's easy but when it costs you. Because self-respect doesn't come from quotes, or mantras, or late-night epiphanies. It's forged in choice. The choice to hold the boundary even when your voice trembles. The choice to walk away even when your heart still aches. The choice to say, "This isn't enough," when you know it might leave you standing alone. But you choose it anyway, because dignity matters more than company. Because your soul has endured enough to know that false peace will always cost you more than temporary solitude. And solitude, it doesn't scare you anymore. You've seen what happens in the silence. You've watched yourself fall and rise without applause. You've sat in your own stillness long enough to recognize the sound of your intuition. And now you listen to it. You listen when it says, "This energy isn't right." You listen when it whispers, "They love your potential, but not your presence." You listen when it warns, "They admire your light but shrink you to feel safe." And you act. Because now you are no longer led by fear. You are led by alignment. You don't wait for people to validate what you already know. You don't wait for closure that never comes. You don't wait for permission to protect your peace. You lead, with grace, with strength, with unshakable vision. And yes, there will be moments you question it. Moments when the old patterns knock again. Dressed as loneliness, dressed as nostalgia, dressed as just one more chance. But you've been there. You've seen what it costs. And now you know, no connection is worth losing yourself again. So you love, but from fullness, not from lack. You give, but from overflow, not from depletion. You serve, but not at the altar of self-erasure. You are not available for anything less than honor. Not attention, not attraction, not empty promises. Honor, that sacred reflection of real respect. That devotion to truth in word and action. That willingness to meet you where you stand, not pull you where they're comfortable. And when you start living like this, you don't have to demand anything. The world learns. It learns from the way you show up, from the way you say no without anger, from the way you leave without burning bridges but never looking back, from the way your silence has more weight than their shouting ever did. You become the lesson. You become the mirror. You become the message that says, "I am no longer available for unaligned love. I am no longer a landing pad for inconsistency. I am no longer molding myself to fit into places I've outgrown." You teach people how to treat you, and now you are teaching them something sacred, something non-negotiable, something born in truth and delivered through presence. You are teaching them that you are a standard, not a suggestion, a temple, not a convenience, a legacy in motion, not a placeholder for someone else's comfort. This is your power now, the power to choose with clarity, to move with purpose, to rest without guilt, to live in alignment so loudly that even in your quietest moment, your presence says everything. So let this be your oath. You will not betray yourself to belong. You will not explain your worth. You will not tolerate what your soul no longer recognizes as safe. You will live, love, walk, breathe, and speak like someone who remembers exactly who they are. And the world, it will follow, or it won't. Either way, you rise, because from this moment on, you will never again teach someone that it's okay to mistreat you. You will teach them that you are unbreakable,